Welcome to Shahnameh, Book of Kings. Today we continue with the Legend of Seyavash, as he continues to show his skills to Garsivaz. The prince exchanged his throne for his saddle. 5 suits of mail, each heavy enough to tire a man, were bound together and set up in the field's end, while all the army watched. Seyavash owned a spear that had belonged to his father, who had made use of it during the war of Mazandaran. This he grasped, and then, like a maddened elephant, he charged, and plunging the spear into the suits of mail, shattered their fastenings, and scattering them all at will. Garsivaz men collected the broken remnants from the field. Then the prince had 4 Galani shields, 2 made of wood, and 2 of iron bound together as his target. He called for his bow, and thrust 6 poplar wood arrows in his belt. 3 more he kept in his fist. 1 he notched to the bowstring. Then he galloped toward the target, and loosed the first arrow. It pierced all 4 shields, as did all 10 of his arrows, one after another, while young and old roared their approval. Garsivaz said, "My prince, in all Iran and Tehran, you have no equal. But let's you and I engage in a wrestling match, grasping each other's belts and straining to throw one another, here in front of our troops. I'm the foremost warrior of the Turks, and you won't see many horses to rival mine. There's no one else here who's fit to oppose you. If I can throw you from your saddle to the ground, you'll have to accept that I am the better warrior, and have the better mount. And if you succeed in throwing me, I'll never show my face on a battlefield again." Seyavash replied, "Don't say such things. You are a great lord and a great warrior. Your horse is superior to mine, and I reverence your helmet. Choose some other Turk to face me." Garsivaz said, "It will only be a friendly contest for a moment, with no malice or hard feelings involved." But Seyavash replied, "It would not be right where I fight is no place for you. When 2 men oppose one another, they may smile, but their hearts are filled with fury. You're the king's brother, and your horse's hoofs tread down the moon. I'll do whatever you order me to, but I can't consent to this. Choose some lion warrior from among your companions. Set him on a fine fleet horse, and if you're still intent on having me fight, you'll see his head in the dust." Garsivaz laughed, and turning to his Turks called out, "Which of what you wants to humble the greatest of warriors, and so be renowned throughout the world?" No one responded, till Goru spoke up. "If no one else will respond to oppose him, I'm his match." Seyavash frowned at this. But Garsivaz said, "My lord, he has no equal in our army." Seyavash said, "If I'm not going to fight with you, combat with anyone else is contemptible. But choose 2 and I'll fight against both together." A Turk called Dama joined Goru, and Seyavash faced them while they encircled him. He lunged forward and grabbed Goru by the belt, dragging him from his saddle to the ground, all without having to use his lariat. Next, he wheeled towards Dama and seized him by the neck, lifting him lightly from his horse, so that to all the onlookers were astonished, as if he were carrying a mere ant rather than a warrior. He rode over to Garsivaz, dismounted, released Dama, and sat down laughing on his throne. Garsivaz was secretly enraged by what he had seen, and his face flushed. The 2 returned to the palace and spent a week feasting according to Persian custom, drinking wine and listening to singers, flutes, and lutes. On the 8th day, Garsivaz and his entourage made preparations to leave Seyavash, wrote a friendly letter to Afrazab, and loaded Garsivaz with presents. At first, the journey home was filled with praises of Seyavash and all his princely ways. But Garsivaz says, "When this Persian came, the only gift he brought for us was shame. Our king has welcomed him to our disgrace. Humiliation stares us in the face. When Goru and brave Dama, 2 men whose like Turan won't quickly see again, were forced by this high-handed Persian knight to look like fools, and who don't know how to fight. And this won't be the end of it, I fear. The consequences of his presence are felt here." And so he talked until they reached Afrazab's court, muddying the stream of goodwill towards Seyavash. When they arrived, Afrazab questioned him eagerly, and after he had read Seyavash's letter, he laughed out loud, in the best of spirits. Malignant, Garsivaz saw the king's gladdened face, and as evening came he left the court, his heart a mass of pain and hatred. All night he writhed in anguish, and when night's black cloak was torn aside, he made his way to Afrazab again. The court was cleared of strangers, and the two sat together. Garsivaz began, "Your Majesty, Seyavash is not a man he was. He receives messengers from King Kavas, and also from Rum and China. He drinks Kavas's health, and mighty army has gathered around him. Soon he will be a threat to you. If evil had not darkened Tur's heart, he wouldn't have slain Iraj. But since that time, our two countries have been like fire and water, each heartsick at the other, and you are crazy enough to want them to unite? You might as well attempt to trap the wind. If I had hidden this evil from you, the world would have condemned me." The king's heart was hurt by this report, and he began to brood on fate and its sorrows. He said, "Affection sprung from our common blood guides you to speak like this. Let me weigh the matter for 3 days. If wisdom agrees with your assessment, I'll say what remedy to adopt." On the 4th day, Garsivaz appeared at court, his sword belt tight about his waist, his diadem of office on his head. Afrazab summoned him and went over the matter of Seyavash. He said, "How you remind me of our father Pashang, and who else have I and all the world besides you? It's you I must tell my secrets to, and you must plumb them through thoroughly and give me your advice. That dream I had, which upset me for a while and confused me, prevented me from fighting against Seyavash. But no harm's come to me since he's bid me farewell to the throne of Iran, and wisely woven his fate with mine. He has never once disobeyed my orders, and I've treated him well. I gave him a country to rule over and wealth. I've made no mention of our grievances against him. I've made a blood alliance with him. I gave him my daughter, the light of my eyes. And I've renounced all thoughts of vengeance against Iran. If after all this I were to suspect him, the world would rebuke me. I haven't the least excuse to move against him. If I were to harm him, our nobles would condemn me. I'd be a byword for bad faith everywhere. And if I harmed an innocent man, could God, who rules the sun and moon above, approve of this? I can see no other solution than to summon him to my court, and then send him back to his father. If it's his sovereignty he wants, he can take his quarrel elsewhere." Garsivaz said, "My lord, you can't treat this matter so lightly. If he goes back to Iran, now our whole country will be destroyed. Whenever you welcome a stranger into your family, he becomes privy to all our secrets. If you try and distance yourself from him now, who knows what insanity may come from this? He'll be your enemy, and you'll be rubbing salt into your open wounds. As has been well said, the man who brings the leopard up sees only trouble as his reward." His words seemed true to Afrazab, who regretted what he had done, and foresaw only disaster. He replied, "I see no good in this affair, neither in its beginning nor in its end. We must look for what heaven reveals in every situation. Delay is better than haste. Wait until the sun has shone on this for a while, until we get some sense of God's will, and who it is in the heavens light looks favorably upon. If I summon him to court, I'll be able to sound his secrets, and if I bring disloyalty to light, then I shall have to harden my heart against him. No one can blame me then, since evil deserves punishment, and there is no end to the matter." But Garsivaz was intent on vengeance, and said, "You are wise and honest, my lord, but consider, if Seyavash, with all his power and royal far, with his God-given might, with that mace and sword of his, should come here to your court, then the sun and moon will be darkened by you. Seyavash is not the man you saw. His crown outsoars the heavens, and you would not recognize Farragus, who seems beyond all earthly needs. Your army would go over to him, and you'd be left like a shepherd with no flock. If the army sees a prince as handsome, generous, and wise as he is, it's not going to be content with you as his sovereign, and you can't simply keep him in his own city, grateful to you for what you have done for him, and still willingly serve you. No one has ever seen a lion and an elephant mate, or fire above while water flows below. If someone wraps the lion cub in silk, a little whelp who's not yet tasted milk, it grows its nature still, and once it's grown, fights off an elephant attack alone. Then Afrazad became despondent and beset by care. Old memories of ancient wrongs and thoughts of vengeance filled his heart. From then on, Garsivaz visited him continually, filling the king's heart with calumny, until one day Afrazad cleared the court and said to him, "Go and visit him. Don't stay long, but give him this message for me. Don't you have any desire to quit your round of pleasures and see someone else? Come here with Farragus for a while. I need to set eyes on your face again and enjoy your wise company. There's good hunting in our mountains, and wine and milk is our emerald goblets. We can spend time pleasantly together, and when you finish and wish to return to your own city, you'll be seen off with music and festivities. Why is it forbidden for you to drink with me?" His heart filled with malevolence, his head with deceit, Garsivaz hurried off on his mission. When he was close to Seyavash, he selected a smooth-talking soldier and said to him, "Go to Seyavash. Say to him, 'My noble and ambitious lord, I beg you by the soul of Turan's king, and by the soul and crown of King Kavas, not to trouble yourself to come out of your city to greet me. Your fame, far, lineage, crown, and throne raise you above such concerns, and the winds themselves stand ready to serve you.'" The envoy arrived and kissed the ground before Seyavash, who was saddened by Garsivaz's message. He withdrew and pondered for a while over what it meant when he said, "There is some secret hidden here." When Garsivaz reached the court, Seyavash went out on foot to meet him, questioning him about his journey, the king, and affairs of state. Garsivaz handed over Afrazad's letter, which delighted Seyavash, who exclaimed, "I not face swords and adamite walls for his sake. I'm ready to travel to his court. You and I shall link our reins and ride together. But first, we must feast and drink in these golden gardens, for the fleeting world is a place of sorrow and grief, and woe to him who does not seize pleasure where he can." Garsivaz said in his heart, "If I return to the king with him, his chivalry and wisdom will trample my plans underfoot. My words will count for nothing, and my counsel will be seen as a lie. I must make some scheme to lead him astray." For a while he stood in silence, staring at Seyavash's face. The tears flowed from his eyes, and seeing him, Seyavash asked in sympathy, "My brother, what is it? Is it sorrow you cannot talk about? If your tears are because you're upset with Turan's king, I'll ride with you now and fight against him until I know why he's humiliating you. And if some formidable enemy has appeared in your life, I'm ready to help you in any way I can. Or if Afrazad is at odds with you because someone has been slandering you, or so replaced you in his favor, tell me about it so I can help you to look for a remedy." Garsivaz replied, "No, there's nothing like this between me and the king, and I've no enemies. My wealth and martial skill can deal with that." Thoughts of our lineage welled up in my heart, and I remembered true tales from the past, how evil first came from Tur, whose lost gods far. You've heard of how he schemed against the humble Iraj, and so began the endless vendetta of our peoples, and how from them until the time of Afrazad, Iran has been like fire and Turan like water, never mingling in one place, always rejecting wisdom and good counsel. And Turan's king is worse than Tur. His ox had not been skinned yet. Who knows what he'll do? You don't know how evil his nature is, but if you watch and wait, you'll see. Think first of how with his own hands he stabbed Agrahas. The two were brothers of the same mother and father, and yet he killed him. Agrahas had committed no crime, and there had been many other innocent nobles whom he has destroyed. My concern is that you remain vigilant and safe. Since you came here, no one's been harmed by you. You've always striven for justice and decency, and the world has been made more splendid by your knowledge. But Ahriman, he has filled the king's heart with resentment against you. I don't know what God's will is all in this, but you know that I'm your friend. Whatever good or evil should appear, I don't want you to think later on that I knew of this and didn't warn you. Seyavash replied, Don't trouble yourself about this. God is with me, and the king has given no sign that he wishes to destroy me. If he were angry with me, he wouldn't have distinguished me by giving me a country to rule over, together with his own daughter, wealth, and troops. I'll return with you to his court and make his darkened moon splendid again. Wherever truth shines, our lies lose their luster. I shall show offers of my heart, brighter than the sun in the heavens. Be cheerful and give up these dark suspicions. Garsivaz said, My kind lord, don't imagine he is as you once saw him. For all your knowledge and stature, you can distinguish pretense from goodness, and I fear bad luck will come of this. He has tricked you, blinded you with glory. You were foolish to rejoice when he made you his son-in-law. He lured you away from your own people and gave a great feast and made you his familiars, so that the world began to gossip about it. You're not a wiser man than Agrias, and you're no closer to him than he was before those horrified troops. Afrasab cleaved his brother's waist in two with a dagger. Take this as a lesson. Put no trust in the fact that you're related to him. There, I have told you what's in my heart. You abandoned your father in Iran and made a place for yourself here in Tehran. You trusted our king's talk and became his friend in sorrow. But this tree you planted, it has bitter roots, and its fruit is poison. His heart was filled with treachery, but he sighed as he spoke, and his eyelashes were wet with tears. Seyavash stared at him in bewilderment, and tears streamed from his eyes. He remembered the prophecies of his evil destiny, that the heavens would deprive him of love, that he would not live long but die while still a young man. His heart was wrung and his face turned pale. His soul was saddened and sighs escaped his lips. He said, However I look at this, I cannot see that I deserve punishment. No one has heard that I have done or said anything wrong. If I have made free with his wealth, I've also striven on his behalf, and whatever evil comes to me, I shall not swerve aside from his commands. I'll accompany you without my troops, and we'll see what has turned the king against me. Garsivaz replied, Ambitious lord, it would be better for you not to come. A man should not step heedlessly into fire or trust himself to ocean waves. You'd be rushing into danger and lulling your good luck to sleep. I will act out for you in this and throw cold water on the fire. Write an answer setting out the good and evil of the situation. If I see that he has no thoughts of vengeance and that the days of your glory are renewed, I'll send a messenger here on horseback, lightening the darkness of your days. I trust in God, who knows what is open and what is hidden, that the king will return to righteous ways, leaving aside crookedness and evil. And if I see that his mind is still dark, I'll send a messenger immediately, and you should wait no longer, but leave at once. It's not far from here to the borders, 120 parsangs to China, and 340 to Iran. In the former, everyone looks favorably on you. In the latter, your father longs to see you, and the whole country is yours to command. Don't delay, but write to both countries, and be prepared to fly to either. No longer vigilant, no longer wise, Prince Seyavash believed his suspicious lies. He said to him, I put my trust in you. I acquiesce in all you say and do. Go plead my case before the king, and seek for righteousness and justice when you speak. He summoned a scribe and dictated his letter. After invoking God and praising wisdom, he addressed Afrasab, O wise, beneficent king, may you live forever. You summoned me, and I am grateful, but you have summoned Faragus too, and she has been ill for some time. She hardly touches her food and has not strength to walk. She keeps her bed, and I sit beside her pillow. My heart is filled with anxiety, seeing her hovering between this world and the next. When her illness eases, she will be ready to serve you, but my worry for her well-being is the reason I cannot visit you now. He had the letter sealed and handed it to Garsivaz, who asked for 3 of his fastest horses, and rode day and night back to Afrasab's palace. On the 4th day he reached the court, and when the king saw him exhausted from the journey, he asked him why he had hurried back so. Garsivaz replied, When evil threatens, there's no time for delay. Seyavash treated everyone with contempt. He didn't come out to meet me. He wouldn't listen to me, to what I had to say. He didn't read your letter. He kept me standing before his throne. Letters were constantly coming to him from Iran, but the gates of his city were closed against me, and troops flocked to him from Rum and China. If you don't deal with him soon, your fist will close on wind and nothing more. He'll make war on us and seize both Iran and Tehran. And once he leads his men to Iran, who will dare attack him? I've told you what I've seen. Now suffer in the crisis you created. When Afrazab heard him, ancient wrongs revived in his mind. In his anger, he said nothing to Garsivaz, but fire roared in his heart, and his head seemed filled with wind. He ordered fifes, cymbals, trumpets, and Indian chimes to be sounded, and led his army out from Gang once more, and planted the tree of vengeance. While the deceitful Garsivaz was straining on the stirrups of his journey, Seyavash made his way to the inner apartments of his palace. His face was pale, and his body trembled. When Farsagos saw him, she said, "My lion lord, what made you lose your color like this?" He answered, "My love, I have no honor left here in Tehran. If Garsivaz speaks truly, my life has come full circle." Queen Farragus clutched wildly at her hair and clawed her rosy cheeks in her despair. Blood clogged her musky curls. Tears stained her face. Distractedly she cried, "Leave! Leave this place! But where in all the world will welcome you? Now quickly tell me what you plan to do. Your father's rage excludes Iran, you say. China would shame you. Rum's too far away. Your only refuge in the world is he who rules the sun and moon eternally. May years of pain destroy the scoundrel who corrupted the king's heart and slandered you." And Seyavash said, "Garsivaz will arrive at Afrazab's court about now." And here is where I finish my tale for today. But I'll be back tomorrow with more tales, many more tales. Until then, my friends,